We got the coffee flowing. Ready? Let's go.
Good morning. Almost afternoon. We are post-run, about to drop a bonus episode on you. We have a 8-week to half marathon plan we'd like to share with you.
Yeah.
all.
Can you cram for a half marathon? You're about to find out. We are the Ryan Galloway girls. I'm Liz.
I'm Naomi.
And we're going to just bust out that we've got an 8-week half marathon plan for you, specifically timed. If you start on Monday, you can be ready for the half marathon for Jeff Galloway's half marathon in Atlanta.
Yeah, March 19th is the race date.
And we have a code for a discount for you. All of that will be in the blog post show notes that go along with this. But March and April are kind of half marathon season.
Yeah, there's a ton of races all over the country, so we can probably share some other ones too that might be, the timing might be the same timing for you, whether or not you can make it to Jeff's race in Atlanta.
And March and April are kind of half marathons, like as we said, half marathon season. And the half marathon is really the people's marathon distance. It is long enough to feel like you are a fucking badass when you complete it, but not so long that it takes your entire life to train for it. And the risk of injury, as long as you are going slow and methodically up to the distance, is relatively low. So this plan is really a cram. And if you hear some craziness in the background, Penny has decided to be a part of the show today. So she is sitting right next to us, right next to the microphone.
Trying to get some pets.
Yeah, trying to be all about this. So this this half marathon plan, you do need to have some minimal base fitness. And what we are defining that as is the ability to kind of walk around the mall for an hour and a half without needing, like being out of breath or needing to sit down. So if you're like one of those people that like, you know, a 30-minute walk is really going to take it out of you, this isn't your plan. But we will come at you with a how to start running, how to transition from walking to running. We got you. But this plan is, you know, you have minimal base fitness, and no niggles or injuries. And you're like, yeah, I want to try a half marathon this year. Like I've been looking for a goal and I think I can do it.
Yeah, this is for you to be able to jump in and get you to the distance and complete the distance on race day. We're not talking about racing for time with this plan or with this goal of, again, it's a cram. 8 weeks is not a very long time to get ready for a half marathon distance, but it will get you to the distance to finish it.
And it's not, and we're not saying that you can't finish and finish well. It's just, we really believe that slow and steady wins the race, and the race is being a runner for life. So let's kind of jump in with what this plan is. So we are, this is very loosely based on Jeff Galloway's plans, this 8-week cram. You're going to run easy for 30 minutes twice a week with a day in between them. You're going to have 2 full rest days a week, and those 2 rest days are going to be the day before and the day after your long run. And then on the other 2 days a week, you have an optional 30-minute walk or 30-minute cross train. And that's it. It's pretty easy. And we are going to kind of go over what easy means. So when we say easy, we mean easy. You should be able to speak in full sentences. You should have zero trouble breathing.
Yeah. If you're using a heart rate monitor, you should be in your, blue or lower green at the most.
We always talk about the color zones using the Garmin heart rate monitor. We're super Garmin fans. We love it. It's like such a usable device. We're both Phoenix wearers, but even the low end, and even the low end ones aren't really low end, but even the Forerunners are just incredible. And so the Garmin has a 5-zone model. And even if your maximum heart rate on the Garmin is not adjusted and you possibly have a higher max heart rate, by sticking to the zones, just the automatic zones on the Garmin, you're going to be easy. Like if anything, it's going to be too easy, but there's no such thing as too easy. So that's what's amazing about it.
Yeah, especially when we're talking about, again, this training plan, and being that really we haven't put in any speed work. This is just to complete the distance. So
get you to the finish line without developing shin splints,
without injuries,
without developing any of those new runner injuries, any of those those things that, make you quit a training plan. And so, and actually, even if you have a little bit of experience running and you haven't done a half marathon in a couple of years, you haven't gone over an hour in a couple of years, this is a great plan for you. So when we talk about easy with that, and when we're also going to define what a run is. A run is when you go out with the intention that the activity is a run. That may mean that you're walking the entire time, that sounds crazy, right? But if you go out with like, this is my 30-minute run today, that's enough. That's enough for it to be your quote run. So,
intention is key.
Yeah, absolutely. So our interval recommendations are always a 30-second walk. And the reason we go with a 30-second walk is actually like a informal experiment and survey of run walkers that Jeff Galloway did in 2014, where he found that his run walkers preferred a 30-second walk and shorter intervals using the same ratios. Previous to that, he was all about the 1-minute walk. But he found like runners just appreciated the 30-second walk, and that when you lengthen the walk past 30 seconds, the recovery benefits didn't necessarily improve, but the pace slowed.
Yeah, so the efficiency of it just decreased from there after 30 seconds, essentially. And he has trained, basically 1 million runners at this point. And so it's in the hundreds of thousands. So he was using kind of metadata from many, many years and decided at that point
feedback, personal feedback from runners. That doesn't mean that if you are enjoying 45 seconds of walking or even a minute of walking, you do you, boo. And then for our run suggestions, we recommend 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. We don't really on easy, because this is a complete easy plan. We don't really recommend more than 30 seconds of running. And I know that sounds crazy, but you're going to find your running economy and your running efficiency to be better with shorter intervals, because you're not going to get as tired. You're not going to slow down. You don't have to temper yourself as much when you use these shorter intervals. That's what we recommend. And now here's where we're going to get into a little bit crazy, and you're going to be like, what? That's going to take forever. So our Sunday long runs, this is really what matters to get you up to the half marathon distance. And you're going to start out with that very first week with a 6-mile long run. And that 6-mile long run should take you at least 1 hour and 20 minutes.
And you're going to say, what? This is way slower than I'm used to if you have a bit of experience. And, basically the idea is that, again, time on our feet is more important than the distance, but we need you to slow down. So even if you do have some experience and you're out there logging six miles in normally it takes you an hour and 10 minutes.
Or even an hour.
Yeah.
Even if you are a runner that can run a 10-minute mile for 6 miles, but you're finding that when you race, you're not much faster. This is where when you slow down, you're going to start building some speed that'll be really incredible. So it sounds crazy. So you're going to do at least an hour and 20 minutes, and you're going to max out at 1 hour, 1.5 hours. Mm-hmm. And so even if you haven't completed the 6-mile distance at 1.5 hours, that is okay. Stop at 1.5 hours. This is based on kind of a 15-minute mile with you want to be no faster than 12:45 per mile. But this is really to make sure that once you ramp up in distance, you're not going to get any shin splints. You're not going to get any IT band issues. You're not going to get any of those new runner things that takes new runners out in the first 3 to 4 weeks of being on a running plan. So the pattern over 8 weeks, you're going to do 6 miles, then 8 miles, then 10 miles. You're going to come down for a nice rest week at 6 miles again. Then you're going to go 10 miles, 12 miles. You're going to come back down for that rest week at 6 miles your taper week. Then you're going to do a half marathon. And I truly believe that following this plan, as long as you have a base fitness of being able to be on your feet for an hour and a half before you start this plan, and you don't even have to be walking around, just like think of a marathon shopping day. If you can handle a marathon shopping day without having to stay in bed the whole next day, I believe anybody could complete a half marathon that has a 4-hour time limit using this plan. Like, I really do. I think that this is something that is totally doable with a little bit of base fitness. And as we said, if this is not where you're at, that is okay. This is a Cram plan. We understand it. But this plan is a great one if, say, you want to do a Disney half marathon or Jeff's half marathon or your first half marathon coming from any distance shorter than a half.
Yeah, and those midweek runs, like we said, are going to be, they're really just going to be capped at 30 minutes. You're not going to need to do longer runs in the week. So this is great for those busy professionals, everybody out there who's got a lot going on during the week and you don't have the time to, go out for an hour or two on your weekdays. So
yeah. And to be honest, when I very first started running and was training out to do half marathons, there were multiple weeks in a row where I only did a weekend long run. And we can talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, so thinking about that, I used to really think of myself as a weekend warrior because that's when all my mileage would hit. And so, yeah, the goal here again is that, your goal is to finish the half marathon distance. Your goal is to participate. It's not necessarily to have any sort of outsets of time goals. So your volume might be pretty low. You might feel like, wait a minute, my long run shouldn't be taking up 80% of my weekly mileage. But in this case, that might occur, like your first.
Yeah. And if you're doing a plan like this is 8 weeks to a half marathon. This isn't 16 weeks. If you had 16 weeks to a half marathon, we would probably encourage not building up as quickly. We probably would have midweek runs increase to maybe even 45 minutes. We might put in some 20% faster work. We might put in something called the Magic Mile. So let's actually talk a little bit about the Magic Mile and why this plan is based on 15-minute miles.
Yeah. So what is a Magic Mile? Okay. So basically with Jeff Galloway's plans, every 3 or 4 weeks, we should do a Magic Mile to figure out sort of where we are in our fitness. And so this is, you are not running all out, but you're going to do a warm-up mile or two, whatever it takes you to kind of get in the groove. Then you're going to run a pace that is comfortably hard that you don't think you could run much farther than. You can do them with walk breaks. You can do it without, but generally if you're used to doing walk breaks, you might, stick with your walk breaks. And it's a gauge. Your first one is not going to be your fastest ever mile. It's going to be something that in 3 weeks you're going to be able to beat.
But on that note, it should still be a 90 to 95% effort. You should not feel pukey at the end, but it should feel pretty darn hard.
Yeah.
So I personally always struggle with the Magic Mile. The Magic Mile is a predictor to help you with paces. Since I've been running for quite a while, I actually find a better predictor for me is a 2-mile block or a 3-mile block or 3 1-mile repeats, 3 or 4 1-mile repeats, because I just personally can't push for that 1 mile. But as a new runner, 1 mile can feel like a long time. So the best way to do this is to go to the track. I tend to recommend, if you kind of know where you're at, you can kind of use the Jeff Galloway interval recommendations for kind of your mile, right? So if you...
On his website, jeffgalloway.com.
It's on the Magic Mile predictor page. You go back down, or you scroll down. So if you feel like, I think I can run a 9-minute mile, you're going to do 2 minutes to 2 minutes. So right about 2 minutes of running, and then 30 seconds of walking for your Magic Mile. If you think, I think I can be 8:30, you are going to increase that to 3 minutes. Now, you might find that you can do 8:30 or even 8 minutes using 2. You might find that, these times are even too fast for where you're at. That's okay. Your Magic Mile it's all yours. It's personal. And so we just wanted to highlight that a 9-minute mile, which A 9-minute mile is pretty fast. It's a hard mile. The long run pace recommended by this calculator is 13:42 for your long run pace. This plan is based on 15-minute miles. So if you're like, well, I can only run, a 10:30, there you go. This is where this plan is for you.
Yeah.
And don't ever think, well, I'm not a runner because I'm not fast. Because that's all BS. Like, it's all about just being out there and participating. Being a runner is about enjoying running. And if you're not enjoying it, you're probably going too fast.
Yeah. And if you run, you're a runner. And trust us, some people might say, oh, you guys are fast. Like, no, we're still way slow compared to a lot of people out there. So
absolutely.
There is a huge scale of what it means to be a runner.
And I think we said in our first podcast, like, well, we're, we are in the top 10% of runners. I mean, so in some fields, we're only in the top 30%, but we're relatively quick. But if you were to look at our training paces, you'd be like, oh, that, like, they're normal. They're slow runners even, because we like love our 12-minute miles. They're so great. And I think we said in the very first episode, there's no such thing as too slow. So this plan will hopefully get you across the finish line of a half marathon in 8 weeks. And now the wonderful thing, again, with this plan is it's got 3 runs a week, only 3. But you also have these 2 optional walk or cross training days that you don't have to do. And walking or cross training doesn't mean doing like a Tabata workout or like Jillian Michaels body shred, whatever. Because that's what I used to think cross training was. I used to think cross training meant destroy my body. No, cross training is that time for you to use different muscles and really care for your body. The other thing about this, when you're doing an 8-week half marathon cram plan like this is not the time to start restricting your food. This is not the time to also start a diet, because a runner that is injury-free is a runner that is fueled. And so if you are like, oh, I'm going to use this 8-week plan to cram for a half marathon and lose weight, this is not for you. If you are like, I would like to lose weight, well, you need to figure out why you want to lose weight, because probably what you actually want is to just love your body. And so maybe focus on what it can do versus what
it looks like.
Right. Like,
or what size it is.
What size it is. Like, so many people, I pose this question on my Facebook, like, what's the thing that's standing between you and your goals? And so many people said food. And I was like, well, maybe you should make goals that don't depend on food standing in your way. Maybe you should make a goal to be able to do 2 push-ups or 5 push-ups or 10 push-ups, whatever it is, wherever you're at, or make a goal to enjoy 30 minutes outdoors every other day, because then it's like, it's not this thing that you have to, like, everybody has to eat. So anyway, we're going to have a whole like food episode, I think. But we just want to say that while you're doing this, and we understand for a lot of people, jumping into a half marathon in 8 weeks is a huge undertaking, and could really just be something that your body's never done before. So this plan will be up on our website. And in the blog post that accompanies the show. So it's on RunGallowayGirls.com/podcast, and this will be episode 2. There will also be a link to an 8-week plan to become a runner. And so if you are not ready to jump into this half marathon plan, do not worry, because becoming a runner can happen in 8 weeks too. And while we're on that, in the Becoming a Runner plan, we have broken down what a 30-minute easy run looks like. And the way that we've prescribed this 30-minute easy run is something that you could use for the Cram to half marathon plan as well. And it is a 10-minute walk followed by 10 minutes of 10 seconds of running and 30 seconds of walking, ending with a 10-minute walk. And there's your 30-minute run right there. this does not have to be
30 straight minutes of running.
Right,
No,
30 straight minutes
not,
or even intervals,
of intervals
right out the door. It can be a 10-minute of like getting ready to run those intervals. You might find that this holds you back a little too much, and I find intervals are so easy to just kind of like jump into right out the door.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not there yet, you're not there yet.
Yeah.
So this plan does get you up to not from like broken down into 3 10-minute blocks down to breaking it into a 5-minute block, a 20-minute block, and then a 5-minute block. And actually it stays that way for the whole 8 weeks. Like you start everything with a walk. And so in 16, that means anyone at any fitness level could be ready for a half marathon in 16 weeks.
Yeah. If you can walk, again, it's kind of like that base fitness of can you walk. This time it's can you walk around the mall for 30 minutes versus an hour and a half to jump into our 8-week to half marathon plan. This is starting from zero. And if you have a little bit of experience, or let's talk about a little bit about what the cross training could be on those other days. If you already do something, if you have a Peloton, so we don't want you to, on your cross training days, overwork those same muscles again. We just want you to kind of spin them out. So if you already have some experience in something else, you're ready to start this plan for sure.
And the other thing about the Galloway method and about these plans, and even about even the most advanced Galloway plans, the rest day before and after your long run are the most important rest days, because that long run, you want it to feel easy and amazing and refreshed and just incredible for the entire time. So we are just so happy to be able to share this with you. And let's maybe reminisce about our first half marathons. Do you want to talk about your first half and how you got into it?
Yeah, sure. So my background, I had run sort of for fitness throughout, college, grad school. It was I did not call myself a runner. It was to try to lose weight. At the time, my boyfriend, now my husband, he was a runner. He had run throughout, high school, cross country and all that. And so when we were, dating and then once we were married, he was pretty into, he wanted me to kind of sign up for races with him. He convinced me to sign up for my first race, which was a 10K. And then he's told me, well, so if you can run half the distance, then you can do this full distance. So basically,
I believe that too. I actually am a huge believer. If you can do a 5K, you're ready for a 10K. If you can do a 10K
with a few weeks of training,
with a few weeks, with 8 weeks, if you're ready for it, if you can do a 10K, you're ready to train for a half. Except the marathon, I truly do not think people should
jump within the same year.
Start training for a marathon until they have been consistently running for a year. And that means, and consistently running to me means once a week for a year. It's not a lot, but you have to have some base. Yeah. And then I think you should do a 6-month to marathon plan versus I hate these 12-week to marathon plans for brand new marathoners. I really do. I think it just opens you up to injuries and then makes you finish a marathon and go, I'm never doing that again. Yeah. And so many marathoners are one and done because of it.
Yeah. And then it's a common bucket list item. So I know some people might have that outset, but we want you to finish and be like, wow, maybe that was really hard, but I want to try it again.
Yeah. Yes. Because marathons get way more fun the more you do them. And half marathons do too.
Oh, yeah. They definitely do. I think I've done about 37 or so now that are official, not including all the training runs.
So what was your first half?
So that same, that summer, fall. So he got me to sign up for this 10K. And then he said, okay, since you can do the 10K, now you can do a half. And so we signed up for the Hershey half. I was super scared out of my mind to go from never having done more than about 6 miles, up to that 10K distance, to jumping to, doubling that. And so this was pre-kids, so we trained together over that summer. The Hershey half, which sadly they've stopped doing after 10 seasons, they stopped it. This was in October. So we basically throughout July, August, and September, we trained together. We did our last long run. I think we did 12 miles. I definitely, along the way all summer, I definitely felt like every ache and pain along the way. Like I said before, I was a straight runner. I didn't do intervals at this time.
You're probably running close to your threshold pace all the time,
right?
Too, because Scott was so fast.
Yeah, I wasn't running with him all the time.
Oh, okay.
So we would go to Burke Lake Park, which is a loop, for those of you who are not local, and we would run around the lake.
Yeah, it was it's a 4 mile,
4.5 mile
it's
loop.
trail, but not really.
Trail.
It's like it's like soft, but flat with no roots.
Yeah,
like
it's dirt, but it's, so we would be able to leave our water bottles and stuff. And so, we got to Hershey. I did feel pretty prepared for that first, having done 12, but I will tell you, mile 11, it had you circling around the parking lot, because I don't know, it finishes at Hershey Park. So if you're familiar with sort of like with Disney races, you sometimes run around these ridiculously huge parking lots. And so we're running around this parking lot, and I hit this wall, and it was brutal getting to the finish line. I have no idea what my splits were like back then. I didn't wear a fancy watch.
Yeah.
But I'm sure I had some significant slowdown after 10 or 11 miles, because I just was. It was I was probably running close to threshold at the time. I did finish with a pretty okay time. I think my finish was a 2:05. And so I'd also raced a 10 miler in the lead up, and that 10 miler was at that same pace, which is a 9:30 pace. So I didn't, improve or get slower between a 10 mile and a half in there. But it was
Army 10, or did you do a different 10?
It was the Reston.
The Reston, okay.
Yeah, so it was hilly.
Yeah.
And so I definitely finished to where it was almost like my first marathon, thinking back, the next day not being able to walk up and down the stairs.
Oh my gosh, I remember that I remember that feeling it was yesterday, the day after your first half. I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, not being able to walk up and down the stairs, being in and also being so proud of that accomplishment though.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, and I definitely had the itch to want to do that again. But it was definitely one of the hardest things I've done. So I can definitely say that half marathons are no easy feat.
But you're usually better after a half, after 3 or 4 days, which is after your first marathon, it takes a lot longer because of the cumulative breakdown.
Yeah.
The wonderful thing about a half marathon is even with the training, even with it being brand new, you should be okay and recovered about a week to a week and a half later, which that's what makes this the people's distance. So my first half marathon, I'm going to start to me actually starting running. So in 2007, my mom had signed up for the Army 10 miler and moved to Germany and couldn't do it. So I went and picked up her bib, and shame on me, I did the Army 10 miler in her bib, having never run more than 4 miles before. So I started in the back of the pack with this woman who was a speed walker, and we walked 12-minute miles. No joke, we walked 12-minute miles.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, my hips were killing me.
They're on fire.
They were so bad. So at mile 6, I was like, I've got to run. And so I finished. I ran off and on for the last little bit for the last 4 miles. And my hips were, it was crazy. I could barely walk afterwards. And I finished in an hour 53. And I was like, I have to do this again. I was like, this is something I have to do. And so the next year, my best friend had gotten married in April, and we had been working out in the gym together. And after her wedding, this is how actually I became a runner. I said, well, do you want to go to the gym? And so it was May or June. I was like, do you want to go to the gym, or do you want to maybe run? She goes, well, let's go for a run. And she hated running. I was surprised that she suggested it. This is a girl who never ran a mile in high school. And we didn't know what we were doing. We went out for it was crazy. We would just went out for 20 minutes. We went until we couldn't run anymore, and then we walked back, basically. And so then I bought the Jeff Galloway 5K, 10K plan, and we were going to do a 10K in the fall. But I was like, oh, I want to do the 10 miler in the fall.
Yeah.
So we just added some distance so that I could do the 10 miler in the fall. So I did the Army 10 miler in the fall, just like you, did a 10 miler. And because she had done the training with me, she was like, well, let's do a half marathon. And so we signed up for it's now DC Rock and Roll, but it used to be the SunTrust National Half Marathon. So we signed up for that. And we trained together, and I think we actually went up to 15 miles before because we were following one of Jeff's plans, and so we did over distance. A lot of half marathon plans might only take you to 10 miles. So I was surprised when you said that you did 12, but that was probably Scott's experience.
I think we were following Hal Higdon.
Oh, yeah.
We probably did more intermediate versus the beginner because we had bases of running,
Yeah.
but it wasn't distance.
And this is a beginner plan that we're putting out there that does take you to 12 miles. And the reason it takes you to 12 miles and the reason it takes you to 3 hours is so that you can really finish. And even if you can't complete 12 miles in 3 hours, that's okay. The 3 hours on your feet, keeping your heart rate super low, right? Because on race day, I don't care how high your heart rate gets. Honestly, on race day, put it all out there. That's what you're there for. It's the race. We just want to keep you we want to hold you back. We want to just we want you itching to let loose and break free on race day. Now, we don't want you to let loose or break free until mile 10. But we want you feeling so good at mile 10 that you can that's going to be loud. Sorry for the clap, guys. So that you can really race in. So I go the night before the race. I go out to eat with my roommate at the time, and we ran into one of my best friends, Adam, and his fiance, now wife, Jill. And Adam's like, "Oh, you're running tomorrow? Can you drive Jill?" So Jill and I, we really only knew each other a little bit at this time. We'd coached together a couple of times, but we weren't friends yet. And so this is really the beginning of our friendship. So I drove Jill and my best friend, Erin.
Coach, by the way.
She's a swim coach. Her husband, Adam, and I have coached forever. We were best friends since 8th grade. And so I drove us to the metro, and then we metroed to the start and everything, and we ran the race. And this is the competitive jerk in me. I was like, well, I'm going to beat Jill today. That's horrible.
Oh, we love you, Jill.
I do love Jill. But it was super motivating because she had done a marathon. I was like,
oh, yeah.
And we finished minutes apart from each other. Actually, but I remember I had to go to the bathroom. I was ahead of her and I had to go to the bathroom. And then she I found her and she passed me after I went to the bathroom. I was like, oh no. But I used it as encouragement, and not in a mean way that I wanted to beat her. But I was like, I'm saying this, this was 2009. I think she'll forgive me for using her as motivation to rock.
I think we've all used people in our groups to be the rabbit for us and figure out how we can.
I think it's totally okay to be I'm going to try to beat them, but then not say it's only internal motivation. And if she had beaten me, I would have been like, yay, great job. I'm going to try again next time. It's all positive. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Versus malicious or anything. Yeah. But I use that as super motivation. And the other thing that I didn't know was a thing until literally the night before the race was that you should try to break 2 hours. And so I went out there and I was like, I'm going to break 2 hours.
Oh my gosh.
And so I ran 1:57:59. And it's crazy because the time on the times that Athlinks pulls is the gun time, not the chip time.
Because and so it's an old race.
It's wrong. It's wrong on my Athlinks, but
crazy.
It is correct in the actual results. So it's 1:57:59, and I was so proud of myself, and I was like, this is amazing. I want to do it again. And I was like, I'm never going to run a full marathon though. And
Oh yeah.
So I did a half that next fall. And so I was doing a half in the spring and a half in the fall. So I did that in 2009, and then 2010, half in the spring, half in the fall, 2011, half in the spring. And someone convinced me to sign up for a full marathon in the fall.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely talk about the marathon. But but it really I remember I lived 4 floors up in a walk-up apartment, and I remember it being so hard to walk up and down stairs. Yeah. I remember my legs just not working. I remember feeling exhausted and hungry and exhilarated all at the same time. And I also took a gel for the very first time ever. I took a gel for the very first time ever that was a course gel at mile 7, and it was a vanilla goo. And I was like, why have I never been taking these? These are amazing. It tastes like frosting. I loved it so much. But back then, I didn't fuel at all.
Oh, wow.
I ran with sometimes with Gatorade, but most of the time just with water.
Oh, wow.
And so, so with this plan, our suggestion is use fuel that is designed for runners. Mm-hmm. The reason is There's some science to back it up. We love honey stinger, but you can use Go. You can use sport beans.
You can spring energy, whatever.
Whatever you like.
Yep.
And if you are starting to have any digestive issues after an hour in, it is because you did not have enough. It is not your fuel that when you're taking it and getting those digestive issues. It's not that the fuel is causing digestive issues.
It's that you waited too long.
Yeah.
You need to start earlier in the race or before. Take a half gel when you're in the corral.
Take a full gel. Take a full, even on your long run days. Take a full, head out the door 10 minutes later. I personally love about a half every 20 minutes to even a quarter every 10 minutes versus waiting 40 minutes to take a whole.
That's part of why we love Honey Stinger, the chews versus the gels, because you can just parse them out every 10 minutes. You can have a couple chews.
I mean, sometimes every 3 minutes.
Or and so that way you're never underfueled.
The other thing about the chew packets is they're 160 to 180 calories, whereas a gel is 190 to 100 calories. And so you're getting a little bit more. And I still aim to eat a whole pack within an hour, which is more than if I were to take a gel every 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a big believer in err on the side of overfueled versus underfueled, because your endocrine system will just crash if you have multiple days of being slightly underfueled, even if you're making it up in other ways. And remember, even though we're saying don't diet, even though we're saying, there's no such thing as too slow and things like that, running is not a free pass to eat whatever you want at all times. Listen to your body. How does what you're eating make you feel? If you want something, eat it. If you are eating because you're sad or you're extra happy and it causes you to gorge and then you don't feel well, think about what those emotions, what's causing those emotions, and deal with that. And the food will follow eventually. Don't focus on the food piece, like we're saying, but also don't let it be well, I'm running, I can drink 2 bottles of wine. You still have to make healthy choices.
Yeah. And one thing also I want to note, we were saying any brand you like. Yes, but don't go and drink just your Noon and think that is providing you fuel. It is not. There are no calories in that. It's just electrolytes. So if you're doing Noon, please also fuel with, a waffle or a gel or whatever else.
We love electrolyte. We love electrolyte brands. We love Noon. We love Salt Stick Chews. We love, if you don't want to drink your calories, if you don't want to use Gatorade or what was
Tailwind.
Tailwind is actually, if you're I don't want to eat, Tailwind is amazing.
It's great for being able to drink instead of eat.
But you have to mix it at the full strength.
Yeah.
Or you have to bring additional food, because we have both in the past been well, I'll mix Tailwind at quarter strength and it'll be fine. We were dumb. Learn from our mistakes. I used to think that I needed to get into a glycogen depleted state, and this is well beyond beginner half marathon here, but I used to think that would make me a better runner if I could get completely glycogen depleted and still finish my run, which is stupid.
It's ketosis.
It was crashing my endocrine system.
Yeah.
It was causing me to get shakes. It was causing me to lose my appetite, which then made me not listen to hunger cues, which then gave me injuries that are harder and disrupted my sleep.
Yeah.
And part of being a runner is taking care of your body and treating it like a temple, that you love.
Yeah. Think about what, obviously we're not the pros and we know you're not, but think about what the pros do. Their whole life is surrounded by recovery. It's all, they're getting massages, they're going for cryotherapy, all that great stuff. They're not just hammering away at hard miles.
Right. And if you see a pro out there running 7:30s, it's because their race pace is 5s.
Right. 4:50.
So you running 9:45s when your race pace is 9:09, that is them going out and running 5:30s. That's why we're saying you've got to be super slow. So hopefully this wasn't too much of a downer of an episode, and hopefully you got a lot of great information. about the half. We truly think that you can jump right in and cram for a half marathon. I mean, I crammed for a full marathon, and we'll have to talk about that one later because I think if you do have some marathon experience, you can cram for a full too.
Yeah. And yeah, we really want to make sure you guys know about Jeff's race. Again, this is the perfect time. You've got basically it's 9 weeks from today. So 8 weeks from next Saturday, if you start our plan now, next Sunday.
And Monday on this plan is a rest day. So
tomorrow you can rest.
So you can actually
You're still on target.
Start the plan and start with a rest day.
Yeah. But come join us in Atlanta. We're gonna, we're gonna be there, and we're gonna hopefully also do some meet and greets.
Yeah.
And we have a code. It's for 10% off. You can sign up for the 5K, the half, or both, the challenge like we're doing.
Yeah.
And the code is Ambassador23. So use that for 10% off. Come do the challenge. We're going to run the 5K super easy shakeout run.
Yep. And then I think we're actually trying to race the half, which is, or at least it will be pace practice for us. And then we'll probably double back and try to cheer in and encourage some finishers in. So that'll be super fun. And then if you can't do Jeff's race live, we understand not everybody can make it to Atlanta.
There's virtual.
There's a virtual option, and there's so many great half marathons out there.
In March and April.
Yeah, there's so many. And 10 milers. 10 milers, such a great distance. I think that's both of our favorites.
Yeah, I know. And I know that weekend or the weekend after, there's a couple we've done. Rock and Roll, if you're in this area, DC. And there's the Philly Love Run, which I did last year. It was super fun in Philly. But yeah, tons of great races, March and April. And the weather, April can get warm, but March, almost everywhere in the country, there's going to be decent weather for your first half or your first one in a while.
And then if you are in the DC area, you can do this 8-week to half marathon and do one of the half marathons or Jeff's half marathon around here. And then there's also the women's half marathon in May, early May, and the Frederick half marathon
same weekend. Yeah.
Oh, it's the same weekend this year?
First weekend of May. It's usually the same as women's.
So you have both of those, and with, kind of a start half marathon plan, and then you could do an improve your half marathon plan, and we will definitely have one of those coming. A half marathon is easy enough to be able to race two in a season.
Yeah, exactly.
It really
you can do them, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks apart, or even 3 weeks apart.
Yeah.
We've done that, of course, and picked up speed on them. So we'll make sure to talk about that too as we get closer.
Yeah. So hopefully you check out this plan and give it a try, and we would love to hear from you. Make sure, leave us comments, rate, review, subscribe. We are everywhere you can listen to podcasts right now, except Google, because it's taking a little while. But please share this podcast out with people that you think might like it. And we'll be back on Wednesday with a regular episode.
And thank you everyone so far who has listened and given us feedback. We love you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And have a great day. Bye, guys.
Bye.